How's it going, guys? Nason here, and today I wanted to make a video giving some advice to trans girls that are starting their first year on HRT. Some advice that I wish I would have been able to tell myself if I could talk to me that was worrying about what would lie ahead of my transition at the start of last year. So hopefully this video helps you out. Let's get straight to it. So the first bit of advice that I want to give you guys is the obstacles you fear most may not even be the ones that you actually come to face during your transition. To give you an example, for me, one of the things that stopped me from transitioning for the longest time was the idea that, how can I ever show up to like a family gathering wearing a skirt or wearing a crop top? How could I ever, change my voice and have my family take me seriously? But as I began to really dive full deep in when it came to my HRT journey, I began to understand that not only would that be something that no one would force me to do. I like to say that no one's ever going to force me to wear a skirt or force me to wear a crop top to a family function. I can dress with just a regular t-shirt my whole life if I want, right? Or dress in a way that I'm going to feel comfortable when I am with my family. But also, you'd be surprised how different your gender expression is from how you think it's going to become. Before I began transitioning, I thought, well, you know what? For sure, I'm gonna want to wear feminine clothing because every time that I'm expressing my actual gender that I want to be, which was a woman, I would get dressed up. I would do the makeup. I would put my little outfits in my room in secret. And so I thought, you know what? I don't know how I'm ever going to do this in public. But as I began to transition, I started to realize that that really was the expression that was available to me at the time of my life where I did not have access to my medication. I didn't have access to having my body validate itself without needing to put on that makeup, put on that skirt, put on that dress, whatever it may be. And I'm not saying that, you shouldn't express your femininity in other ways. But what I am saying is that however you imagine yourself transitioning into a woman, once you're on your HRT, you'll begin to see what form of femininity expresses itself most genuinely to you. As far as me, I am gender fluid, kind of explains the voice. But for me, some of the obstacles that were the things that I am having to face now has to do more with insurance and making sure that I'm financially stable enough to be able to have a safety nest of being able to pay for my medication out of pocket if that were to be the case. And for me, if I would have told myself starting in the beginning of the year, is like, hey, if I could be honest, the hardest thing you're gonna face in your first year is going to be just making sure you have enough money and filing insurance, like different insurance applications. The me at the time would have been like, really, that's it? Like, then what the hell's stopping me? But because I had all these different fears of what would happen, I began to realize that it's like most of the fears that would kind of ruminate in my head never came to fruition. I was scared of coming out to my family. I was scared of coming out to my brother, my sister, etc., etc. And when I told them, they were really nonchalant. It was just like, okay, cool. Like, that's fine. Yeah, interesting. And so again, a lot of times, and I'm not saying this is the case for everyone. Some people's fears do come true. But a lot of times, the fears that you have aren't going to come to fruition, or not to the degree that you think they will come. All right, so this leads up to the next one. If those fears do come to fruition, one thing that helps me is knowing that the you of today will not be the you that has to face those challenges that may come along that you're scared of in the present moment. What the fuck does this mean? When it comes to transitioning, within a year, you are going to begin to develop a sense of resilience. You're going to begin to self-advocate more for yourself. Your confidence is going to go up as you begin to notice changes in your physical presentation. And so while right now you're terrified, I can imagine if you just found out you're trans. I know for me, I even made a little video in my car. I was super terrified and I was trying to justify why I should do something for myself once in my life. I was like a scared little puppy, kind of in the corner. But I began to tell myself, whatever situations come up, I have to have faith that the me of the future is going to be resilient enough and strong enough to take care of that in my own behalf. So for me, the me of a year ago could have never imagined telling anyone at work that I was trans. Now it's like, if I trust a coworker and if the conversation comes up, then I do say I'm trans. And it's like, there's no shame, there's no stigma, there's no embarrassment over that. And the me of a year ago could have never fathomed ever saying that. For me, same thing, it's like from me a year ago was like, I can never go on a date and be seen as a girl. There's no way. No guy's gonna And then lo and behold, the me of today, or like a couple months ago, goes on a date, and I have a lot of fun time with a guy that truly saw me through a feminine perspective. So if you are stressing out about how am I going to do this, how am I going to do that, how am I ever going to come out to, those are the worries of the future you. But each and every day that you are being your most authentic self, you are also growing your own personhood. You're growing your own character to be more resilient, so that if you guys like Black Mirror, if you saw the new USS Callister, right? You saw if you haven't watched it, please, 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 at least watch the US Callister part one and then part two. But notice how the main character sees a different version of herself who has stayed in real life, who has not gone through adversity, while the other version has been stuck in a video game realm where she had to learn to fend for herself and really step up and be a captain. And notice how different the personalities were. And when personality one told personality two, wow, I'm so resilient, I'm so yada, yada, yada. Personality two, that has grown over the years, is like, we're not even the same person. What are you talking about? I'm resilient. And what I mean by that is that with transition comes a lot of adversity. It comes with a huge character growth that just like in the show, the character that was the captain is not even similar to the clumsy character that stayed in real life, They're two completely different beings. If I were to talk to myself when I first transitioned, I would almost be a mentor towards myself. And that's something that I want you guys to recognize too. Within a year, you're going to be mentors of who you were, before you started, because that's how much growth comes with a transition. And whether we like it or not, it kind of forces us to grow. Okay, next one. When you're deciding whether or not you should be authentic in transition, always think of how is this going to play out in your deathbed, not how is this going to play out the next workday. Obviously, we always like to think, well, how's this going to be when I go to work tomorrow? Is anyone going to notice? Is anyone going to question me? How's, so-and-so going to react? What if my photos and all this BS? But I try to think, what is the end game? What is the point? Why do I get up and live another day? And I think I'm doing this for the final moment that I have on this earth now. Hopefully, luckily, not luckily, I hope that I'm lucky enough to not like just randomly die without, noticing what the fuck happened. But if I die a peaceful death, if I'm able to make peace with my going, that's when I'd be reminiscing on everything I did in this life. All the people I met, all the people I inspired, all the people that I was able to help, all the people that I was able to be there for, but also all the things that I was able to give onto myself when it comes to, wow, I actually transitioned in this life. Like, I would have never expected that I would have the courage to do that, because that was my biggest fear growing up, is ever transitioning. Think of how you're going to actually be on your deathbed. Don't think of, what the fuck Becky's going to think the next workday. What the fuck Ron is going to say to you when you walk in, or whatever the fuck. Think of the end game, because ultimately that is why we're living. We're not living for tomorrow. We're living for the memories that we're going to create, the accomplishments we're going to have when it's all over and done with. Kind of like when you think about it, when someone's training for the Super Bowl, they're not thinking necessarily of the next practice day. Sure, they're focused, but they're thinking of winning the Super Bowl. How's that going to feel? And that gets them to do all of the hard work so that they can eventually, celebrate and go to sleep that night knowing, hey, we gave it our best and we fucking won. Hopefully this video helps you. Now, if you do recognize me, I did have a YouTube channel. I was starting to get a little following, but I did delete it just because I don't like transphobes. And yeah, for me, I was like, it's starting to get to the point where I was getting more anxious uploading. So I will be back, but I got to be honest with you guys. Once I reach like 200 subscribers, I'm just going to delete my channel and start over again, just because I really want my videos to be for a very small section of the trans community who may need it, who stumbles onto it. But I don't want clout. I don't want fame. I don't want followers. That just brings a headache. So while I'm here, you will be getting trans content. If not, if you find that my channel is deleted, wait a couple months. I'll probably re-upload a new video on a different channel. And then you can keep up with me there. With all that said, be safe and have a good day.